Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sabretooth64, and welcome to the RoboCast. I'm joined alongside.
And this is 9132. Hello, everyone, again.
Hello again. And as ever, we have our usual special guest of some note. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dave from Team Apollo.
Hello, Dave. Welcome back again. You mean at least you didn't have carbide this time? Let's talk about that. How happy were you when you arrived in Glasgow and you looked at the drawer and carbide was not in your heat? What was that like?
Relief in terms of I'm fed up of that fight. That's 5 times we've had that fight. But we would like to have had a pop at him this year with the new robot.
I mean, that's not really often. I mean, I know everyone wants to have a pop at the champ. Obviously, you found that out last time. But I mean, does anyone really want to go in with carbide in their heat? I mean, really?
We had a secret weapon for carbide this year.
Alright.
And yeah, we would have. It'd have been nice to have. We had a bit of bad luck last year with the speed controllers letting us down.
Yeah.
But that's been sorted this year. We worked with the suppliers as well to fix that problem. So yeah, it would have been nice to have gone into a fight with a fully working robot. And Apollo this year has not really let us down in terms of the robot itself. It was just the luck of the fight.
Well, we'll get to that eventually, of course. But we'll start with our first fight, which was Donald Thump, Sabretooth, and Behemoth. I mean, we'll start with Donald Thump. Where do you start with something like that? I was worried going into this heat, thinking, how well's the satire going to go down? Is it going to be too much? Is it going to be too little? I think they actually got it spot on. It wasn't, in your face, or anything. It was very candidly done. I think that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, exactly. He's a really nice lad as well. I think I may have just pressed a button on my screen.
Oh no. Professionalism, as ever, at the RoboCast. Let's go on.
I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if I've done something wrong. I've just accidentally pressed the button. It's just showing one.
You can build a robot, ladies and gentlemen.
But a computer.
Different thing altogether, apparently.
No, really nice lad, and yeah, we saw the robot in the pits, and at first you think, is it even going to work? Because there's parts of clothing inside the robot.
Seriously.
The weapon shaft wasn't actually cut straight, and it was a bit long on one side than the other. But to be fair to him, it's actually quite a good robot. His weapon's got a bit of power behind it, and he just had a bit of reliability issues really at the end of the day. But he's learned his lessons with it now. It's the best way to learn a lesson is just have a go and get in the arena. I reckon he'll be back next year with something very special.
Oh, looking at it, it did take a really nice chunk out the side of Sabretooth. Obviously, it went on and died a bit later on, but it for what we saw of it, it actually looked quite promising. It was, very fun to watch.
Yeah, it was a good robot and an entertaining team, which is obviously what we like to see. We like to see a team who's up for having a bit of fun and not taking themselves too seriously, which is good.
Yeah. Anderson, your thoughts?
Well, you pretty much said it all for me. That's exactly what I was going to say. Fun, but a good robot.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely, can't ask more than that.
Absolutely. Moving on from our presidents, I suppose we'll go to the people of the internet's unluckiest robot ever, Behemoth. Disappointed we didn't really see the axe at all in this heat, but I mean, there's no one that could really use the axe on, so to speak. And it's fundamentally a solid machine anyway. There's nothing really wrong with Behemoth, and as Dave unfortunately later found out, it's pretty handy.
Yeah, there's no point in putting it on if they're not going to need it. I'm not too sure what their configuration needs to be, if they need to put the axe on or how it works, to be honest. But no, it's kind of there as an additional weapon.
Yeah.
It's not really needed, so if you don't need it, don't bother with it.
How highly do you as a champion before? You've obviously beaten a lot of good teams to win the title. How highly do you rate Behemoth as an opponent?
Very highly. It's a very competitive machine.
'Cause I know a lot of people online they say, oh, it's barely changed in 20 years, which is fairly, aesthetically fairly accurate. But obviously, I know obviously internally things are very different from what they entered, back in Series 2 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it kind of looks the same on the outside, but the internals have changed. The principle of it's still the same. It's a bulldozer type robot with a shovel on the front. But they've always done quite well, and most of the time they've been let down by a bit of bad luck. So it's great that the team, after so many years, have been determined to stick with the same design instead of going, well, this hasn't worked a number of times now. Let's build something new. They've stuck with it, which is good. It's a robot we fought countless amount of times now on the live shows. Lost count the amount of times we've been in the arena with Behemoth, and unfortunately we've never lost to Behemoth. Actually, we've always beaten Behemoth.
No, and this is the one time.
Exactly, and we've fought them since as well, and still beaten them then. But it's just the way it goes, that one fight. But no, it's always a competitive robot. It does quite well on the live shows. I don't think it's won anything yet on the live events, or not for a little bit of time anyway. But it's always up there. It's either in the finals, the semi-finals. It's still a competitive machine.
Yeah, Anderson?
Yeah, to be fair, Ant's done a lot of hard work over the years to make it as good as it is. Yeah, aesthetically, it's basically the same machine. But I actually think that he's actually made quite a few different Behemoths, so like complete rebuilds. Like you can actually put them next to each other, sort of thing. Its performing is better than ever, though. So yeah, really good job. Hope it does well in the grand final.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously completing that first melee was Sabretooth, entirely new from last year. Although in fairness, there wasn't much left. I feel kind of let down by Sabretooth. Like I was expecting so much. Obviously it was all hyped up with the fact that they spent X amount of pounds on it. It looks very pretty. It's a very nice looking machine. Like apart from the first fight, that I didn't like. The drum didn't seem that effective to me. I was kind of a bit disappointed by that.
It's got a nasty weapon on it.
Yeah.
It's not something you want to drive into.
No, obviously not. But yeah.
But yeah, in terms of luck, if he didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck at all.
Yeah.
They were blowing motors left, right, and centre on the weapon. Just unfortunately, once again for Gabe, it just didn't get going. But Sabretooth know how to build a good-looking robot. That's the main thing.
I think throughout all the years of Sabretooths that they've been, there's not been one where I thought, I don't like the look of that. They all look the part. It's just...
Series 5 version.
Maybe. Okay, fair enough. But, like, certainly since the show came back, the three models that they've had in Series 8, 9 and 10, they all look so they look very pleasing to the eye,
Yeah, they're always good-looking robots, and they are relatively competitive, and on a good day, they could do very well. They just have a lot of bad luck, and these brushless motors, some people swear by them, but you do get your problems with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Alice, anything further to add, or...?
Well, I've got to say it. I think that drum was a snare drum because it never worked.
Me.
So I do apologise. In all honesty, I was just disappointed. I mean, we all know I kind of
you thought they'd
win the heat.
Yeah.
Oh really?
It looked decent, all right. Give me a break, Dave. Come on, give me a break. But in all honesty, yeah, I mean, this was a massive disappointment. There's nothing really I can say. It was just really disappointing. I mean, bad luck, aside, it didn't really do much. And it seemed to scrape through everything. So, yeah, I mean, that's not me being horrible. They had a lot of bad luck. I was a bit disappointed by it.
That's fair enough. So, obviously, winning that fight, it was kind of a weird fight that Sabretooth and Behemoth both died at the end. I thought it was kind of fortunate that Behemoth won that. I'll be honest, I thought Sabretooth had done enough, but I'm not a judge. I just sit on the internet and ramble about things. That's my job.
Might I give my 2 cents on this?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Well, the thing is, it's very hard to judge who did enough out of the two of them because they didn't really have much contact with each other from what we saw.
They're both bullying Donald.
Yeah, they both hit each other like twice, I think, and then they hit each other the third time, and that's what caused the KO. And I guess you could probably say that Behemoth was the more aggressive throughout, maybe. And of course, aggression is the number one thing on the judges' criteria these days, not damage. So. To be honest, it was a lot harder. I don't really know who was robbed and who wasn't. Really, it was a lot closer than a lot of people make it out to be. I think.
Did you?
Yeah.
I was saying, were you watching it? And I'm guessing you had a bit of an eye on it, considering you'd be fighting one of them later on, I suppose.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think it was actually the very first fight to be filmed. So, and I think stuff was running a little bit late at that point. So they were trying to get these fights through as quick as possible. So we were literally on the walkway, ready to go in next. So we watched this fight from the grandstand. And yeah, to be honest, I agree. I think actually Sabretooth maybe should have won this one. To be honest, it could go either way. So it's not the end of the world, and obviously it didn't really matter in the end. But my theory would have been, if I was a judge, that the impact that killed Behemoth was caused by Sabretooth, and Sabretooth technically wasn't immobilized. It was
pinned down,
beached, so it was stuck.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the link or something coming out of Behemoth, I don't really know. So from that point of view, you could say Sabretooth deserved to win because they caused the impact and are still technically mobile, but they're just stuck. But it didn't really matter in the end of it.
Yeah, it was a close call, but as the judges said, it was Behemoth that go through. So obviously we'll see Sabretooth and Donald Thump later, thankfully, because obviously this new system's. I quite like the new system, how it works. You get to see everyone at least twice. And we'll move on to our second melee, Apollo, Apocalypse, and the Swarm. We'll start with Apollo. Why not? Seeing as though you're here. Apparently, they're right wallies. I don't know. But Apollo. I mean, talk us through what was the main aim going from Apollo Mark 1 essentially to Apollo Mark 2. What was the big thing you had in mind with that?
Well, it needed a new chassis. It was slightly out of shape thanks to Aftershock last year.
I was going to say, because we didn't speak to you for the grand final, but how finished was Apollo after that hit?
Yeah, that's what KO'd us. Yeah, it kind of, one of the uprights going down the chassis got buckled. So kind of, if you look at it from the front, the whole left side of the robot's kind of lifted up. It did still work. As soon as we got into the pits, we put the link in and it worked. So we still don't actually know why we died in the fight. I think something must have just come loose. Yeah, so we needed to rebuild it anyway. We were very lucky that we had a few sponsors on our side who were giving us a few parts, so we made use of those. The initial Apollo was designed on the back of a cardboard box. Even if it was designed, really, it was kind of just guesstimates.
Is that actually true? You designed it on a cardboard box?
There's just bits of paper and cardboard and stuff like that with the ideas.
That's brilliant.
That's just the best way to do it sometimes. But this one's been designed on CAD. It then got laser cut and CNC machined out, so it's built perfectly. There is a photo circulating somewhere when everything got arrived from the cutters. Is literally like a massive jigsaw on the floor of all the bits of Apollo. But the good thing with that as well, we had a number of spare panels if there was a problem. We could, if we needed to, we had spare bits of Hardox. We could have found a metal fabricators in Glasgow, handed them a USB stick with Apollo on it, and go, "Can you please print us another one of these, please?"
Oh wow, that's pretty decent.
That's the idea of it. But we had a fair bit of spare parts, spare panels, enough pretty much to. It's similar to Sabretooth. We had enough spare parts to probably build another Apollo if we needed it. Whereas Sabretooth was pretty much an assembled robot under the desk as such. Ours was just bits all over the place. But we had a couple of spare flippers. We had a special interchangeable flipper as well that could go on for a certain robot.
For a certain champion.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had the opportunity then to upgrade the drive system. So we took it. And yeah, that drive system is pretty impressive now. It goes from 2 horsepower to just over 20 horsepower, from 12 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour. So it
certainly seemed to shift around the arena a lot more than not that the original Apollo was slow, but it seemed quite steady. Whereas this one just took off like an absolute rocket, like a rocket. How appropriate, Apollo. It just seemed like a just more complete design, really.
Yeah, it's the first time we'd ever tested the drive. It was in that fight.
Oh wow!
You'll probably see for the first minute or so, we don't actually flip anybody because even though it's so fast in a straight line, it's the same speed turning left and right. So just all you do is touch the stick, and the thing would do a full 360. And I was like, this is impossible to drive. So they don't really highlight it much, but you do see it very briefly. The robot stops for about 3 or 4 seconds in the middle of the arena. And that's because I'm messing around with the dual rates, turning down the steering speed, so I could actually control the robot halfway through the fight. Which a very eagle-eyed John Reed spotted actually afterwards. He said to me afterwards, he's like, "Were you turning down your dual rates in that fight?" I was like, "How did you know?"
He's Santa Claus. He's always watching you.
But he spotted that the robot was oversteering. We stopped for a few seconds, and then after that, I got control. But yeah, it's a nippy robot now, and we've slightly increased the flipper as well, just to give it a bit more flow.
Not that it needed it, but why not?
Well, the opportunity's there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've kind of left you talking for a while. But, I mean, talk us through the fight from your perspective. I mean, we worried about. I mean, Apocalypse has been around on the live circuit for a little bit. The Swarm was very different to anything else, but I'm guessing you were thinking 20-kilo robots with a much more powerful flipper. Hello.
Yeah, pretty much. But then it's also how do you handle these things, which was the problem. They were really hard. It was very hard to grab hold of them. They were just all over the place. And
to me, it seemed like they kept slipping off you quite a lot. You couldn't actually get under them and have them stay on.
No, this is it. The Apollo is not designed for that type of small little attack, really. We're designed to get underneath and wedge ourselves underneath another robot. But basically, what is almost remote control cars driving at you, they just use you as a big stunt ramp. So it was very hard to get them, and they just whiz off you. By the time you reaction to flip them, the things had already left you. So just managed to get that one good flip on the duck, which
that was great. The duck flew.
Quite. I think it must be the first robot to go over the polycarbonate sides now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
they only weigh 20 kilos. Doesn't really matter, though. You know.
No, I don't think it could have gone much higher without hitting the roof. So it went over the top of the control pod height anyway. So it was a good height. We didn't really see it from where we were, but we knew it went out. Well, we saw it go up and it didn't come back into the arena anyway. But then Apocalypse were just kind of having their own problems and kind of having a fight to kill it. We got a couple of flips on Apocalypse, but I could hear Ed in the control box going, "Oh, we're on fire now, and it's not working." I was just like, "There's no point in."
Yeah, at that point, it's just bullying, isn't it? Really.
There's no point in going for Apocalypse, especially while the cluster bots still going, Swarm's still running around. There's no fun in attacking a dead robot, so we kind of left Apocalypse to it. Tried our best to see what we could do with all the little robots. We actually got wedged in the corner of the arena at one point. We went to attack the spinning disc blender, and the arena wall sits on top of the arena floor, and there's a little bit of a gap. So our flip foot went straight underneath the arena wall, and we got wedged for a few seconds. Oh no, because there's still 2 featherweights mobile, or whatever they are. There's a good chance we could lose this, but we managed to get out.
Yeah.
And then I think one of them committed suicide in the end.
Yeah, just drove straight. That was good. Great value. Just drove straight down the pit. It was great. And I read somewhere, because I think it was you might have posted this, David. You said that you had a go at Kill-Lot, but it was never shown.
That's true. Yeah. So, I think technically they're called cease once the little guy gone in the pit, but you can't hear anything in that control pod anyway. Yeah. And Killer-Lot decided to do a bit of a parade with Apocalypse, picked Apocalypse up, put him over the flame pit, and then was going to go and pop it over one of the wall. I think it was the arena wall near the pit. I was like, that's a perfect opportunity. Yeah. Like, Killer-Lot's got his back to me.
I've got it. I can't not.
I've got to have a go. And very quickly, as soon as I whizzed over, I'd never seen anybody drop a robot so quickly. He didn't care about putting Apocalypse out of the arena anymore, and drove around, and we were literally another mil, and he'd have gone over. Everybody thought it was going over. It got to that point where you kind of teeter, it goes either way.
And bounce back down.
And then, but kind of slid down and went underneath our flipper. So our flipper, so we're kind of like eating his track at this point. And I tried to pull back, and it was a bit stuck, and I was like, "Oh, we're not going anywhere here." And Killer-Lot's tracks were in the air. He wasn't getting any traction, so he was spinning his tracks And I was like, I wonder how powerful this new drive system is. So I just went forwards, and Killock just moves across the arena. I was like, wow.
It's pretty good, that is.
The motors didn't like it. The motors were boiling hot after the fight. They don't really like pushing that weight. But yeah, immediately after that, somebody popped into the control box and asked us to stop. And there was a rumour going around. There was a conversation about maybe even disqualifying us at that point, because technically there is a rule that you're not to attack after cease.
Oh.
And technically, we did attack Sikilabot after
that would have been really, really boring, wouldn't it? Like, come on now. Like, I'm all for rules and stuff, but come on.
The rule, we were told that they were putting Apocalypse back to the arena door so they could disarm it safely.
Yeah.
That's not the way I saw it. But
yeah.
It was a bit of fun.
Yeah, it's a good laugh. But anyway, Apollo won. You went through to the semis with Behemoth, and we had a robot revival, is it something like that? I think it's
Redemption.
That's the geezer, and we start off with Sabretooth and Apocalypse. Drum notwithstanding, it was a kind of an interesting fight, and then Gabe getting very vocal and shouting at everyone, really.
Angry Gabe having a go at Rob. Yeah, this is Rob's opportunity to drive Sabretooth, and to be fair, he was doing a very good job.
Yeah, it looks like a kind of difficult robot to control, because I like the way how it drifts around the arena, but I think that's a bit inconvenient, really.
It's a very hard surface to drive on. It's a very slippery surface, which we've had problems with Apollo, but I quite like it because we get to power slide around a bit. Yeah, obviously Gabe was trying to release his anger, and I think it was quite difficult for him because he'd lost the spinning disc at this point, so he had nothing to release his anger with.
Yeah.
And they were having drive issues as well. At one point, I remember watching this from in the pits on one of the screens, that Apocalypse was still fully mobile, and I think Gabe had lost his weapon, and I think one of his drive side had cut out at this point. And we were like, Apocalypse is going to win this. But all he has to do is hold on. And to be honest, I think if Apocalypse didn't blow up his speed controller, I think he could have potentially won that fight.
I thought, until they got stuck on the wall and obviously died, I think they were on top, to be honest with you. I thought Apocalypse was doing really quite well, considering I think they lost a chain as well.
Yeah,
midway through.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a four-wheel drive robot, so he can afford to lose a chain. Same as like Behemoth and things like that.
Yeah.
They can afford to lose a chain; it still kind of works. And as much as we love Gabe and Rob and stuff, they're great fun. And especially this year, we really got on well with those lot. We did a lot outside of the studio together as well. We've known Ed Wallace for many, many years from that team, so it would have been nice as well to have seen Ed go through, just because he's done that. Not as long as Gabe, but he's been doing like live events and started with featherweights and worked his way through, and used to be teammates with Dave Moulds as well from Carbide.
Yeah.
They used to have a robot called Turbulence, which won the UK Championships actually a few years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been nice for Ed to have done well, but wasn't to be this year.
Which I say, yeah. I mean, Anderson, I don't know about you in this one, but I thought Apocalypse was doing really quite nicely.
Apocalypse was winning. It should have won. It was. I mean, literally, it's actually. I felt so bad for him because think about it. They dominated. They did. They dominated that fight, and then they got pushed onto the wall, and that was it. I mean, I felt so bad. I was like, oh wait, we're gonna have a really big upset here, and then Gabe. Then Gabertooth just manages to give it a cheeky push. No, that's it.
Gabertooth. Dear oh dear. I mean, it was a good fun fight. You know, there's a lot of pushing and shoving, which it's always good fun, and
it was very tactical.
Yeah, it was, and it's a shame for Apocalypse, but that's the way it goes. And then the Swarm versus Donald Thump. I have to say, like, I was gutted that Thump's spinner didn't work, but it was great value seeing just the front of it just get ripped apart by the little spinner on Blender. It actually looks very, very competent, that thing.
It's nasty. It's very nasty. We've got a fair few chunks out of Apollo's front from that thing hitting us, and same with Behemoth as well. It took a nice big gash out the
the scoop had it reminded me of, like, not obviously on the same scale as when Carbide did it in Series A, but it looked eerily similar. I was like, that looks quite handy, that does, for a little nipper.
It is. It's very nasty.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought the Swarm, it was great seeing them all at the end, just kind of like dog pile on top of its corpse. That was good fun. I really liked this fight. It wasn't necessarily the most destructive, but it was nice. It was nice, and good to see the Donald Thump. I think James is the young lad's name. He seemed like he had a lot of fun with Dara as well. So that was good. I mean, Anderson, anything more to add?
No, not really. No, I'm being serious. No, you've basically said it all for me. So yeah, I mean, it's a shame we didn't get to see him do much better, but that's the way it goes. Hopefully, he'll be back next time.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm sure. Considering the reaction online, I think if there's a series 4, then that'll be a very good chance of that happening. Moving on, Dave, you're back in the arena again and taking on. Finally, and you're taking on Sabretooth. We apprehensive going into this one. Obviously, obviously you've said it. You got on to know him quite well at this point. We knowing that Sabretooth could potentially cause you quite a lot of bother. Was it interesting to see how new Apollo got on with the spinner?
Yeah, and we've never fought a drum spinner before, so you've got to kind of think about how you're going to approach it. Sabretooth, who got this like lip that runs underneath the spinning disc, which is so low to the ground, and we knew if our flipper tip had gone on top of that, then their drum would have just basically chewed up the tip of Apollo's flipper, and that'd have been it then, and we would have had massive difficulty getting underneath him. But he decided not to go with this for this fight. He decided to go with the 2 paddles either side, which I think literally as soon as he drove forward, they ended up turning round underneath the robot, so they ended up doing nothing in the end. And yeah, we literally go straight underneath his drum, which at that point then is, because the way it's spinning, it literally almost guides the robot up the flipper. And yeah, he got a couple of hits on us, and I think after a couple of flips, his drum died again. Unfortunately, another motor blown out. And then it became just basically a chase for about a minute. And Sabretooth have got the exact same drive system as the new Apollo.
Oh, so you're literally neck and neck.
Yeah, they've got the same ratio and everything, so we were probably never going to catch them in a straight line anyway. So we just had to hope that at some point he'd hit something or slow down or do a wrong move, which is what happened in the end. He got too close to the wall. It wasn't the intention at that point. I didn't purposely drive into him to flip him out. It just happened to be where he was at the time and the way he went.
Over he went, and nicely parked.
Yeah, it didn't straight away go over the wall. It nearly fell back into the arena, but yeah, it was. We don't flip many robots out of the arena, so it was good fun.
Yeah. Anderson, any more to add? I mean, once again, we kind of Dave, you're very good at explaining fights to us, Dave. I do appreciate that.
Right.
I just liked how Apollo was able to get underneath the drum of Sabretooth pretty well. I thought that was pretty cool, because a lot of wedges struggle with drums, so it was nice to see Apollo manage to do that. But apart from that, no, yeah, everything's been said. So, yeah.
Well, I feel bad for you, Anderson. I'm going to come to you first to the next fight, which was Behemoth and the Swarm. Again, it was good fun. Like, you got to see Behemoth like kind of bouncing off the walls and everything. It was kind of crazy that they did that. But Anderson, I mean, what do you reckon? I mean, it was a great fight. I thought, like, good entertainment.
Great, absolutely great fight. I mean, I said this just yesterday. It was it's everything I like about Robo was about good tactics, because obviously Behemoth trying to take on one, focus on 4 machines. You've got to try and figure out which one's the best one to go for first, and of course the Swarm trying to just gang up on poor Behemoth. I was actually quite excited for this fight as well, remembering how well Behemoth threw one of the Nuts mini bots a few 2 series prior.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice to see that. Behemoth got on out of the arena for the first time since Series 7. Yes, which is always nice as well. And yeah, it was just an entertaining fight. It's a shame the Swarm didn't win, because especially little Blender, trying its hardest to get some good shots in.
It was a great shot of it just like bouncing off the scoop, wasn't it? I mean, it just like the way it kind of barrel rolled away. It was...
I don't know whether it was this battle or the next battle against Sabretooth, but I remember that the rubber duck couldn't self-right, and one of the other put them on the floor to self-right. I'm like, that is teamwork. Teamwork is dream work, and you've proved it, guys. That was awesome.
Like the Swarm, like it was. I was saying to Anderson before we actually started recording this, I really rate the Swarm as one of the best cluster bots I've ever seen, and it was just nice to see something. They were all different, but you could tell that they were all a good unit together. It was great. It was great TV. I thought that they got to do that, and I mean, I'm sure you had one eye on this yourself, Dave. Obviously, for the Heat final. I mean, were you kind of gutted that you didn't get to fight the Swarm again, or were you kind of anxious to fight Behemoth?
No, I think we wanted to fight Behemoth, really. We've already fought Swarm, and they were quite a challenge. So, and we'd fought Behemoth many times in live shows. So, there was a side of us that was actually quietly confident to fight Behemoth. We've fought them many times and never lost to them. But
yeah,
no, Swarm is a fantastic robot. It's great fun. It's very clever, the fact they got 5 of those little things. They can only ever put 4 in at the same time, but the way that they declared it in the rules and in their application, that they can basically pick and choose which one they want to go in the fight.
That's clever. That is really cool. I like that. Because I noticed they had the one with the kind of the tyres in the next fight with Sabretooth. But we'll get to that in just a second. But it was obviously Behemoth winning out in the end, Heat finalists again, and then we were introduced to the 10-way rumble. Woo! Scary stuff. Third place in the Heat was decided between the Swarm and Sabretooth. Again, little drum, but it was a lot of. We got to see a few good shots of it wrecking Blender, I think it was, and I think that floor flipper thing you were on about, Anderson, was in this fight. The poor little duck got to fly again. And another entertaining battle. It's a shame it didn't quite go the distance. I think Swarm just about died at the end, but it was another good fun fight.
This one felt a bit flat for me. That's just me. Go on, Dave. Reel it in.
Yeah, the Swarm is an entertaining robot, but only kind of when it works. And obviously, Sabretooth were having problems again. So it was. And to be honest, I don't remember this fight even happening. When I was like, "There's a third." I could have like, "Is there a third and fourth place playoff?" And I was like, "Oh, of course, yeah. I suppose it's got to be." But I literally didn't remember. I knew the result of it, obviously, but definitely didn't remember the fight. So I was like, "Oh, it's a bit of a surprise here."
Yeah, we get more fights, and then obviously we'll come to the Heat final. I have to say, Dave, at the end of the fight, like when you just got in and celebrating with Kane, you look absolutely devastated. You look so gutted. I feel really bad for like kind of bringing that up, but you look shot.
Yeah, it was good. It was because we were on top of them in the fight, and as Kane says it afterwards as well in the fight, that we were on top of them. And then just that one. To be honest, until this day, I've been reliving because I couldn't really remember exactly. When you have tunnel vision when you're in the fight.
Yeah.
I always try and think to myself, like, if there's something more I could have done in that drive, if I could have. Because basically, we're on Behemoth's bucket heading towards the pit. Because of our speed, I managed to drive off the bucket and try it, but.
They already did enough.
The only thing I could do is spin round and try and get round him again, but in that spin he gets the flip which gets us into the pit. So then you obviously then think in your head, what else could I have done? If I hadn't done this, maybe I wouldn't have gone in. If I hadn't done this, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But that's one of them things, isn't it?
Yeah, I have to say, like, absolute credit where it's due to both of you, like to you and Behemoth. This was an amazing battle. It was such good fun. You guys, flipping Behemoth miles in the air, and Behemoth came back, and then you were both all over the place, and it was such a, like, you didn't really know which way the fight was going to go next. It was a good rush, and I know you guys in particular are big advocates of we don't want to turn up and just flip them out in 3 seconds and win. You want a good spectacle. You guys are entertainers.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
And I think that was a real good demonstration and spectacle of what these machines these days are capable of, and I think that was I absolutely applaud you for it. It was a great scrap.
It was. Again, I couldn't remember it, and it's the same as most of the series. When you leave the fight and leave the arena, you're like, I can't remember what just happened. But yeah, once we got back to the pits, because all the teams are watching it on one of the screens in the pits, everyone was saying that it was a very entertaining fight. So that's one good thing, and at least you kind of save the best till last for the heat final.
Yeah.
And of course, it's as good as you are to lose at the time, but what a robot to lose to. Behemoth. Anybody who's been a fan of Robot Wars from day one will always know Behemoth.
Yeah.
They're legends of the sport. So we knew on the day that, as gutting as it is for us to go out, we knew it'd be a fan favourite for it to go through. Everybody would be like, finally, Behemoth have had their chance.
Yeah.
Sadly, against us, but it happens.
Yeah, I mean, and Anderson, anything more to add to that?
Yes, actually, believe it or not, I felt that Ant really stepped up his driving for this battle, especially. I don't think I've seen Behemoth as well driven as it was in this one. I'll admit Apollo was on top, but I do think it was closer than a lot of people give it credit for as well, because it was a case of Apollo attacked Behemoth, Behemoth attacked Apollo, then Apollo attacked Behemoth, Behemoth attacked Apollo, etc., etc. Obviously, Apollo's flips had a bit more oomph behind them. But Ant did a really good job of managing to avoid danger quickly, managed to get around to the exposed areas like the rear, and was able to get that cheeky flick to the pit. Easily one of the best heat finals I've seen in a long time. And I mean a long time. And fantastic. Again, great tactical battle. As you know, you guys know, I love my tactics. I love my close back and forth battles, and this was definitely one of those. Yeah.
And I think, obviously, Dave, you're not actually out yet. You had the 10-way. Obviously, you can't disclose anyone else apart from Sabretooth who were in the 10-way. Were you looking forward to that, or were you just kind of like, we could really come out in a mess after this?
No, we didn't know really much about. We were all given a pack about a week before, which explained the new format and how the losers melee was going to work. But nobody was really. It wasn't worded particularly well, so we didn't really understand fully what was going on until we all sat down and we get a big briefing by Andrew, who's the producer, and explains how the format works, which none of us still really understood at that point. And then he's like, right, so there's going to be this 10-way fight, explained it, and then you're all given a chance to ask questions. And we're like, hang on, so how does this 10-way work? And we explained, like, does it keep going until somebody dies? So there's one robot left, and he's like, yeah, there's no time limit. And we're all like, well, there's going to be lipos on fire left, right, and centre on this fight then. And we were just like, right, okay. And there's just, we were very excited about it. We're like, if we're not in it, we cannot. Like, if we go out of the first round, we need to somehow get tickets or something like that to stay up. It's good. And then, so you're out there. It's a bit gutted because, to be honest, I think we had a relatively good chance this year. The robot was performing well. It's the best it's ever worked, really, Apollo.
Honestly, I had you down to win this heat, and I think I said, I could see you probably going and winning the whole thing again. I thought you would be like top 4 easily. As gutting as that sounds probably now for you guys, I think that robot is more than capable of winning Robot Wars again.
Yeah, definitely, and we believe it's got the good chance as well. So that's why it's a bit gutting to lose, but to get the opportunity to go into like a history-making 10-way fight is just incredible. And of course, I'm not going to ruin anything for anybody, but we were all very concerned that there was the potential that it might not live up to its hype. But believe me, it does.
We'll look out for that. I don't know when it's going to be. Probably in the grand final episode itself. But
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's at the start of the grand final.
So, Dave, massive commiserations. I mean, congratulations for doing so well up to the point where ultimately it just slipped away from you. But it was a great way to go out, and I'm sure, as you said, no disgrace to lose to Behemoth. And thank you very much for coming back. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. We'd be an absolute delight. Anyway, I have been SamuelLit64.
I've been Anderson 9132.
And we will see you next week for a certain top 3 from last series. We'll get onto that eventually, but
very dumb.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye.